The world of business is more complex than ever. The world of human resources and compensation is also getting more complex. Welcome to the HR Data Labs podcast, your direct source for the latest trends from experts inside and outside the world of human resources. Listen as we explore the impact that compensation strategy, data, and people analytics can have on your organization. This podcast is sponsored by Salary.com, your source for data, technology, and consulting for compensation and beyond. Now, here are your hosts, David Turetsky and Dwight Brown.
Hello and welcome to the HR Data Labs podcast. I'm your host, David Turetsky. We are live recording from the HR Technology Show here in Las Vegas, Nevada at the beautiful Mandalay Bay Exposition Center. Today, I have the absolute pleasure again to talk to Mark Stelzner of IA. Sorry, IA.
Well, that was prescient. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, really, I mean, could you rebrand and just change the letters around?
I am intelligently artificial, so I'll own that brand, David. Yeah,
hey, that's great.
Good to see you, my friend. How you doing?
I'm okay. How are you?
I'm well.
You
Thank
look well.
Thank you. Well, looks can deceive us sometimes. So,
well, hopefully it does. Everything's okay.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So, Mark, you know how this works. What's one fun thing that no one knows about you?
Boy, what's one thing? I have torn both my rotator cuffs in the last 2 years. And maybe a more fun story than my klutziness. Well, this is klutziness. I broke my toe 6 months ago moving a Peloton. So little known fact, if you've ever had a Peloton or used one, there's little tiny weights that are hidden under the seat. And when you kick the Peloton up to a 70-degree angle to get the little janky wheels to start to move, those weights have a gravitational pull.
Oh, my God.
And a well-placed toe can catch those weights and break into pieces. So I'm just getting more klutzy. I need to be covered in bubble wrap. I'm not sure what's going on with me right now.
Well, you should go play hockey, and then you have all the equipment on.
I should wear that all the time.
Yeah.
Trying to thrive and survive despite my own self-interest. So,
well, as we get older, I find that I'm doing klutzy things as well.
Yeah.
And it's, I used to be really coordinated. I guess I'm not anymore.
I used to think I was, and now I'm questioning my own memory. But anyhow, I was trying to stay upright and glad to be back in action. So.
Well, and glad that you're here at the HR Technology Show.
Thank you.
So, Mark, I think you see on every single booth here, and there are a lot of booths, that the topic of conversation that is on everybody's mind is around AI.
I've heard of this.
Yes.
This AI thing.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
And then your branding is very, as you said, prescient.
Right.
But let's talk beyond the hype cycle. What else aren't we talking about from an HR technology perspective? And it could include AI, but what aren't we talking about these days?
I don't know about you, but I don't know very many people that are hopeful about the world of work. And I'd like to change that. My name's Marcus Mossberger, and I started the Hope at Work podcast, where you'll find two things. Number one, really interesting guests. And number two, innovative ideas about the future of work. Check it out.
It's funny. I was just in a meeting actually with a very large organization, and one of the things we spend a lot of time on is what I'll call client readiness. Mm-hmm. There is no shortage of tools, technology, capability in our market. It is another salad day of innovation and, frankly, a lot of noise in the system.
Right.
Our clients are struggling to separate signal from noise and figure out how to thread and unify all these wonderful capabilities into a journey for their employees. And one of the conversations we had, and I think the cynicism that's starting to grow, is how do we apply these tools to real use cases for real people, for real value, and in a way where it can be trusted.
Right.
And it can learn and it can grow, and it can be trusted, it can learn and can grow. But part of how HR is organized is the fact that really there's nobody that owns AI, as it were, as a capability. Our function owns end-to-end processes. So part of what we spend a lot of time on is how do you deconstruct and reconstruct journeys? How do we apply it to a multitude of personas? And our temptation in our industry right now is to talk about employees, but what about candidates? What about pre-hire? What about onboarding? What about family members, however that's defined? What about alumnus?
Alumnus, yeah.
And everybody moves through that journey and has moved through that journey multiple times in their career. And then we apply the cyclical or point in time or moment that matter processes, however you define it. So where does AI thread in? And one of the biggest issues, one of the biggest opportunities we see, for example, is what I'll call authoritative content. If an organization has not invested in content that is accurate, content that is refreshed, content that is in the language that one needs to consume, an AI model will hallucinate, as AI people like to say, and it will infer the wrong information or present you with the wrong information because the large language model is sourcing from content which is not truly authoritative.
Right.
And we work with really large, complex global organizations. And part of the problem is nobody really owns content either.
Well, I mean, there are pieces of content that learning owns. There's a piece that OD owns.
Sure.
There's a piece that comp owns. But those are disparate.
Yes. And so what's the repository? Is it even possible to imagine a repository where content would live? Do we have enough time and protection to update our policies and our programs? And I'd say even the marketing and sales pitch associated with performance and merit. The answer is typically no.
So even an HRMS doesn't usually hold documentation of process. It gets instantiated and implemented with process.
Exactly. So if we could solve authoritative content, then we can put some of these AI tools against it. But then we have this notion of permissioning and consent.
Yeah.
And a lot of the debates in the organizations we work with is AI about opting in or is it about opting out?
Does that matter where they are? Is it California versus London versus Paris?
I think it could. I think based on privacy laws, GDPR, of course, any of the protections that are here in the States and hyper-localized around the world, it should matter. But I think philosophically, organizations haven't aligned on where do we believe we know better than you? Right, rightfully so, perhaps, that you're not taking advantage of these amazing programs or you're not consuming the information in the way that we would expect. And we want to use AI to push information. We want to use AI to activate other modalities. But how do you decide which modality you prefer?
Right.
I might like text right now, but depending on the use case, I still might need to talk to a live person.
Right.
I might want to open a case through the case management tool. I might want to have a live chat, or I might want to just engage with a virtual agent.
Right.
But it depends on the content and the context in which I'm actually leveraging the tool in my employee journey.
Can I ask you a question that may foundationally change what you just said?
Sure.
You had mentioned who the owner is of all of this. Shouldn't the owner really be IT, since this is a technology play?
It's a really good question. I think IT should own the policies associated with AI.
Okay.
So we work with Microsoft. Microsoft has the Office of Responsible AI.
Sure.
Aura, as they refer to it, right, is not only for their first-party tools, but it's also for the ingestion of Copilot in this instance for their own employee journeys. In lieu of defining the parameters through which AI can be employed, it's a little bit of the Wild West. So we need our technology partners to establish governing principles and policies and practices that give us the guardrails through which we can then activate.
Right.
But that in and of itself is evolving so quickly that they being our technology partners, need to have dedicated resources that wake up every day thinking about this on behalf of all the functions. We have a client we work with who, when they sent us our contract, it had AI in the contract. You are not allowed to use anything that you learn from us for the purposes of a
Training
model.
Models, yeah.
Well, guess what the project was about? AI.
Training models. Yeah.
So the irony or cognitive dissonance isn't lost on me. But it's happening so fast. We all have various belief systems around the value proposition.
Right.
It is being pushed into our inboxes and our brains through every medium that one can imagine. And it does have a ton of practical value.
Right.
But organizations need to pause for a moment and get themselves ready to ingest, deploy, learn, ingest, deploy, learn. And that's one of the barriers I'm seeing at this moment. Yeah.
But that requires what you were talking about before, like Aura. It requires an organizational response that doesn't take into consideration that we're all consumers.
That's right.
And we all hear the hype cycle about ChatGPT 4.0 and Copilot and Gemini and everything else.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of people going rogue, quote unquote, and doing it on their own.
That's right.
Even asking questions that may actually cause risk management to either be furious or to ask, do you know what you're doing?
100%. 100%. But like everything in the consumer market, everything that you see in this hall, this vast hall that we're in, there are consumer expectations. We all have consumer expectations. Nothing is more frustrating than using a consumer-like experience to bring me into an organization only for me to slip into a wormhole from 40 years ago because we don't have device enablement. And, I'm talking about sort of basic tenets of bringing technology into the hands of populations. We have a lot of frontline workers that we work with, and they don't have, yes, they're on Active Directory for badging, but they don't have email addresses. No. They're not allowed to bring devices for wage and hour concerns, as you certainly know. And so all this wonderful tech, I talk to our clients about the addressable market.
Yeah.
Like, what is the addressable market? Who is the actual consumer for these tools? If it's more for HR, we're actually increasing the dependency on HR.
That's right.
Versus necessarily bringing a different level of activation with our guidance, with our ethos, with our culture, through bringing these tools to the front line to the best of our ability, where people should own their career.
Right. You're stressing out HR by trying to learn a new trade, really, by trying to train a new colleague, quote unquote, or new productive worker, which might be an agent.
That's right.
And are you giving them something that is offloading something that's useful to them to get their job done, but giving them the tools to enable them to really see that? Or are you just stressing them the hell out?
Well, and with all the talk, I know you've talked to Stacia and other wonderful minds here about skills. With all the talk about skills and skills taxonomy, what are the skills that we believe AI should bring to us as that complementary agent, right? And therefore, what are the skills we no longer require that should be redacted from the job description? And as AI gets smarter, we maybe don't need those skills or the same application of those skills at scale.
Like what you hear so far? Make sure you never miss a show by clicking subscribe. This podcast is made possible by Salary.com. Now, back to the show.
But I'll argue with one thing. I think the person's job description changes. I think that skill and those duties then need to get added to the agent's description. And I know there's a religious war going on online at LinkedIn right now about one company that I'm not going to name that tried to portray AI as being a worker, being hired, and then literally people came out of the woodwork screaming at this company, what kind of hype bullcrap is this that are you going to pay it, or is it going to fall in line with FLSA and wage hour regulation, blah, blah. Oh my God, this is the future.
And the future is here. My wife is a professor of fashion and design at SCAD in Atlanta.
Oh, cool.
She uses AI every day for what she does. Now, think of what she's doing. She's looking at it for inspiration. She's looking at it for creative. She can actually build patterns. She can actually create a runway and see how the products flow. She can change the garment type.
Right.
She can change the sizing. She can play with the lighting. Right. She can put jewelry on it. She can emulate the entire production life cycle using a variety of tools. Now, they're not perfect, as tools are imperfect, but at the same time, she's sat down with her seniors. She just told me this last night, her seniors, and said, listen, you're getting ready for your senior collection, which is the culmination of your experience here at our university. Why aren't you using AI?
Yeah.
Why aren't you applying it? And which is fascinating, because you would think, and a lot of
the other way around.
A lot of creatives say, well, the creative part is what I should be doing. Right. It's the non-creative piece, but it's everywhere. It has endless applications. And once you play with it, and I do think people need to play.
Yeah.
So to your point about InfoSec losing their minds or risk management losing their minds, how do we create a safe playground? Give parameters in which we want to encourage our employees to play and experiment and learn from that experimentation, if for nothing else, to give them another data point that they could apply to their work.
I think there are serious guardrails that need to be put in place, because the intellectual property that gets created by the AI is a very big gray area right now. Or it's actually, like, if you use an Adobe product, they actually show you what the licensing terms are right away when you start using them.
That's right.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And I've used AI to create artwork in Illustrator.
Yeah.
And I worry about the intellectual property that creates and whether or not I really own it, or whether someone else, to your point, someone else using the exact same terminology,
that's right,
can make that exact same image, and then there be an issue about who owns that.
One of the skills we talked about 2 years ago that we want the people function to develop is prompt engineering.
Oh my God, yeah.
And it's funny, we have someone on our team who's an expert in this, and a few years ago, the one thing that he told me that I never forgot, that I hadn't realized when I was just starting to play with these tools, is starting with the prompt of imagine.
Wow.
Imagine you are a blank. The first prompt should be you telling the tool who you are emulating and how we want the tool to actually be. Imagine you are a people leader in a manufacturing firm in this vertical market.
Yeah.
We're having an issue with employee retention, and if you don't tell it to imagine, it will imagine whatever it wants to imagine. And so the order in which one asks questions, we do a lot of interviews, stakeholder interviews as another example of how we apply AI. We used to have 2 people on every interview. I invite an AI agent to every one of my interviews. I ask if people are comfortable, but we use it to record transcript and sentiment.
Right.
And you know what the tool tells us? It tells us if we've used inappropriate language.
Really?
If we have gender bias.
Oh, it does bias testing.
It does. It'll tell us if we actually have visual engagement, where we've lost engagement or where we've gained engagement.
Wow.
And we can take that transcript and I can save it off into a document and I can load that into ChatGPT.
Yeah.
And I can ask a million questions about what happened in that interview. And then I can take all the interviews and I can load those and ask for themes. And it's really good. But what it freed me up to, yes, you would think, okay, great, that's more efficient. Mark didn't need another worker.
Right.
But what I really get value out of, I am fully engaged with the person across from me. I am 100% locked in to what we're discussing. I am not distracted with, wait a minute, how do they exactly phrase that? I've got someone catching that for me.
Right.
Not bulletproof, but gets me maybe 99% of what I'm looking for.
Right.
Invaluable for the work that I do every day.
That's brilliant. I mean, I know Zoom and Teams are actually doing something very similar in terms of having that AI agent listening. You have to enable it, of course.
Yep.
And it does tell everybody that this is being recorded and AI is transcribing. But it's just brilliant because then that enables you to be so much more present.
Well, Hunter, and that's what I wish we could start talking about. Like, what capability is this unlocking? What that unlocked for me, as I'm doing very senior stakeholder interviews, is one, transparency.
Right.
I'm intending to capture everything we discuss.
Right.
Now, it'll be de-identified and anonymized, but what you say, and I would say how you say it, is super important for the work that we do in transforming these organizations. Number 2, I want your consent that you're okay with that.
Yeah.
I had a CTO interview the other day, and he said, I appreciate you asking. I said, wait a minute, do people not ask you? 90% of the time, it's just running in the background.
Wow.
So ask. This is a great example of the type of consent we're talking about. Are people comfortable? Not everyone's on a different journey or has a different point of view.
Yeah, that's true.
But my presence and my engagement and the way I would connect with people,
But Mark, that actually brings up a good point, which is, could those people who aren't asking the question or the person who says, I'm okay with you doing it, are they potentially giving away intellectual property that maybe, again, talking about the risk management, they may not agree with that and they may say you shouldn't have given permission there?
That's it came up in this same organization I was describing, and that was the CTO's perspective. And he asked me, what did other people do?
Exactly.
He said, what did my team do?
Yeah.
I said, half your team said no, and half your team thought it was really cool. And he laughed at that because they're experimenting too.
Yes.
But it's the perceived lack of control. And I would say, I mean, as we read the same publications and we're studying our market, of course, as one would, the reality is even the originators of these tools don't know these answers.
Right.
Don't know where that information really could be derived for another purpose, hopefully a positive purpose. It should be protected. It should be localized. It should be isolated. But frankly, the incentive for the tools is to get smarter through usage.
Yes. And that's what bothers me is they get, especially the ones that aren't firewalled, are trying to get data from everywhere as much as it can to be better at giving the right or giving an answer.
But I would say, like, we as humans, how many apps do you have on your phone? 50, 100?
At least.
Yeah. And every time I get an update, and every time it is terms and conditions come up, I am in a race with myself to see how quickly I can scroll. What do you mean? Oh, this is one of those I have to scroll before I hit the button? We give away. And therefore, when I'm talking to my wife about something, I'm like, why did that just pop up on my Instagram? Well, shocker. I just gave all these permissions away. So we as consumers are giving away our personal information constantly.
Yeah.
But an organization is different. And what we want to incentivize is we want our employees to tell us more. We want a higher level of engagement, of transparency. We want to know what people are thinking about, in whatever form or format they want to do it. So we want to encourage them to provide this information and sentiment. But people are rightfully concerned about how will it be used and where could it be applied.
Right.
But as humans who live in the modern era, most of us are freely giving away the most personal information one can imagine every day.
Well, I'm not an ethics lawyer.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't know if you are as well.
No, I'm not.
But when we go into these meetings with that bot, for example, taking the transcription,
right,
we don't know what's happening with it. We don't know what's happening with that particular transcription, other than the fact that it's maybe going to be played back to us or provided to us later. But we don't know what else is going on with that.
Well, and that's why, and I like how Microsoft has called this responsible AI. Everything's evolving at an unprecedented speed. The investment, look at the valuation of NVIDIA. Yeah. I mean, it's going to get smarter and faster and smarter and faster. And there are, two sides of the big market, which is, we need to stop. It's almost too late. And there are others, which is, boy, we're about to unlock something we can't even possibly imagine. And both can absolutely be true and coexist.
And that's where the legislation is trying to head off, or at least understand it first, and try and head off the apocalypse.
Right. Yeah. But what is responsible? And to your point about governance, internal governance, organizations being intentional about the responsible application of these tools in a way that's foundational. And I don't know about you, my data gets stolen every third week. I think I have credit monitoring until I'm 150 years old.
Yeah,
at this point, with the number of letters I'm getting. But I'm upset with it, and I certainly don't want my employer to give away my information without my consent. So we have to come up with mechanisms and methods to the best of our ability. And we have to have governing bodies that provide prescriptive guardrails that determine the appropriate application. Some organizations are pulling way back, and some are saying, this is the future. We've just got to find a way to bind it.
Hey, are you listening to this and thinking to yourself, man, I wish I could talk to David about this? Well, you're in luck. We have a special offer for listeners of the HR Data Labs podcast. A free half-hour call with me about any of the topics we cover on the podcast or whatever is on your mind. Go to salary.com/HRDL consulting to schedule your free 30-minute call today. And I think one of the really key areas that's tangential to this, but key to it, is data governance.
Oh my God, yes.
And what data are we using? What data do we have? And especially, as we've talked about in the past, HR data being the very nature of its existence, of always being in some kind of flux. How do we provide the right information?
And what's fascinating about that is we have some very forward-looking employers that are even thinking about data governance in the context of, when have you left us? Meaning the auspices of what it means in the employee and employer relationship. When do we have to be intentional about the fact that we will enable these capabilities, but you are now outside the walls of this relationship? A great example of this could be an HSA account, or your 401k account.
Absolutely,
that's a banking relationship that you have. You own that bank account. It
transcends the employment relationship.
Exactly, and I want to be really clear. And I may move you from my bot to their bot,
right? If it exists.
But in the moment, I want to make clear that congratulations, you now have left our land, and you're entering theirs. Right. And they may have other requirements and consents that you need. But
there's a transom you pass,
That's right.
From being a current employee to being a former employee / alumnus.
Yeah.
Or never hire back. Or we'd love to get them back.
Yeah.
But there's that transom you pass where the ownership of that person, the responsibility of that person on some things is gone, but in other ways it transforms.
Well, and global legislation for after hours notwithstanding, there aren't really clear lines of demarcation. It's really fuzzy in a lot of areas. I think it would take a lot of work, frankly, for many organizations to say, when has this relationship ended? When have you timed out, as it were, of what we would expect of you?
Right.
And then the classification, of course, of what type of employee I am peers into that too. But if without that, we don't know how to govern the application of some of these amazing tools and technologies.
I want to dive into something you said there, which I'm going to take it in a different way.
Sure, please.
You said what when the time runs out, think about the current employee relationship. And I'm not talking about just more exempt roles or more professional roles, even though that's a really important topic. I'm talking about the 2/3 of employees in the U.S., which are non-exempt or hourly workers.
That's right.
When they leave the office, they're off the clock.
That's right.
If the bot reaches out to them after hours, does that constitute work?
And that's there's a lot of interesting conversations about whether this is a compensatory event.
Exactly.
Now, and then it goes to the point, and this is sort of the opt-in, opt-out catalyst as well. If we have offered you a series of capabilities and you have attested a desire to learn more about, you want to do professional development and move from handling material in the distribution center to being a shift leader in the distribution center. And that requires professional development. It's optional. We haven't put you on that trajectory. We've provided the learning tools and the interventions for you to do so. Is this you developing yourself outside the auspices of work? Or is this us paying you to develop yourself? Is this about us driving you for internal mobility, which again, we would like for the sake of growth and retention, but you've chosen that. We didn't force you, quote unquote. And I'm not saying that's the right answer, but I'm saying that's where
I don't know if FLSA makes a distinction on that, does it?
No, not to my understanding. And so, but those distinctions get really, what about benefits? So you're eligible for benefits. We want to provide you all the tools necessary to consume and be aware of maintaining financial, physical, emotional well-being.
Absolutely.
We want you to thrive. We want your loved ones to thrive. But if you engage with a tool outside of hours, which is mostly when you're likely to engage with a benefits experience of some type, is that a compensatory event? Probably not.
But this is where the law hasn't kept up with the times.
Yes.
Whether it's from a non-exempt or exempt hourly worker or salaried worker, it just hasn't caught up.
Right.
And I'm going to say something really rude. All of us that work in professional jobs where we're at least middle management or senior management, we work all the freaking time. There's literally not a time that I don't check my phone.
Yep.
And some days I'm really mad about that because, and not that I should get paid for that. You could say it's built into my compensation.
Right.
But I'm losing my life. I'm not living then, right,
That's
Mark?
right.
And I know you love your life outside of work.
I do love my life outside of work.
And how you post.
I'm clawing at it every single day, my friend. But and then people will try geofencing. Well, let's try to geofence it, but you can't geofence and then not enable.
Right.
So we've got to pick lanes, and I think and I guess I would say the big nexus of what we discussed today is intentionality.
Yes.
Experimentation is great. I think we should experiment. I think we need to. But if we're not intentional about the guidelines, the use, the capabilities, the activation, the interpretive applications, the journeys, the personas that we're bringing to life, it's a bit of a free-for-all. And I spend every day trying to unwind that hairball. That is the free-for-all of trying to knit all this amazing stuff together. Everybody needs to coexist with everybody else. And there's no one person or provider in this hall that does everything. And so, and there's no one perfect tool. Or it would be a very boring Oh, God, it would be a very boring tool. Exactly, yeah. What would we have to talk about? God forbid, so.
What are they coming out with next? It's like listening to an Apple announcement.
Exactly.
But seriously, though, one of the beautiful things about being in this hall is the differences in the thought processes. What are the areas that each one of these groups are attacking?
Right.
And, last year we knew that this year was going to be all about AI because last year was the starting. And as I said, beyond the hype cycle, what I'm hoping for next year is for real use case, real world examples of where people used it and what were the outcomes and how did it transform things?
100%. We relentlessly hit this refrain everywhere: process-led, tech-enabled, process-led, tech-enabled. When we run a lot of RFPs, I don't care about the 8,000 cut and paste ridiculous questions that no one reads. Yes, I need some information for the purpose of protecting the procurement process, but I want high value use cases. Like I want you to come in and I want you to tell me how my hypothesis, an RFP is a hypothesis.
Right. How
I
is
want
this
you
going
to
to work in my
activate
organization?
against real use cases. I want you to show me, and then I can tell you yes, yes, no, or tell me more about this. And how would you connect with all these other experiences and the other 100 tools that we've already bought? How does everything come together? Because people are lost in this ecosystem. We work with some really fascinating organizations. The utilization of these tools is shockingly low.
Yeah.
And then new capability comes out. People aren't ingesting even what they have.
In my conversation with Stacia this morning, it was amazing. Her research basically says that a lot of companies say that they do AI, but then when companies buy, especially at the front end, they don't realize those benefits because it was oversold, underdelivered.
Oh, completely, yeah.
And then at the end of it, they look at it and they go, well, this was really disappointing.
Yeah, of course, because when you listen to all the keynotes, and I love my peer group, but we are creating an expectation that thus far has rarely delivered. Now, we're not too far away from that. I think there's a lot of investment. As I talk to the providers, and I think I've had 40 breakfasts in 2 days. I don't know if I can consume anymore. I'm going to go to one. I'm going to go to my fourth lunch probably right after this. But when we talk to them, we talk to them about the fact, like, you really have to get use case centered. You really have to get journey centered, because once people get it, it could be game changing. It can be game changing. But if they can't apply it, the stories matter.
And then the stories that we can tell about the implementation of it and how it worked and how it transformed, that's the next, it's got to be the next wave of this.
We don't want to, I no offense to everyone, I don't want to hear any more from providers. I want to hear from real organizations. Right. I want to hear from the panel of experimenters and the things that went wrong.
Right.
As much as the things that are well packaged and presented that went right.
I love hearing failures. Yeah. I've learned so much in my life from failing at things.
Oh my God, that's why I'm here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I've failed more than I've succeeded, and thank God for it. How boring would life be? Yeah,
exactly. Hey, I went out and I put a dime in and I won $1 million.
Yes, exactly.
And I put another dime in and I won another million.
No, I'm paying for light fixtures and chairs in the casino right now, so it's all good. Yeah.
Well, they're naming a wing after me. I don't know if you heard about this, but Mandalay Bay is having the Turetsky Pavilion. For all the money I've stuffed into the coin slots. Mark, as always, it's a pleasure and an honor to spend time with you.
Likewise.
I learned so much talking to you.
As do I from you.
And I wait, thank you. I wait for next year. Oh, we don't have to. We could do an earlier one. Next year, coming back and asking exactly the same questions.
And let's see where we are. I hope we evolve. But thank you. Enjoy the conversation as always. Thank you so much.
Take care and stay safe.
That was the HR Data Labs podcast. If you liked the episode, please subscribe. And if you know anyone that might like to hear it, please send it their way. Thank you for joining us this week, and stay tuned for our next episode. Stay safe.